Meet Berries, the AI-powered scribe that writes your therapy notes for you. Secure and private with no recording stored and EMR ready with one click. Join over 8,000 clinicians, saving time and staying present in sessions. And right now, save $50 off your first month with code TherapyShow50. Berries, so you can focus on care, not notes.
Welcome to the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard, where continuing education meets convenience. Lisa brings therapists practical conversations with expert guests who share tools, techniques, and insights to enrich your practice. Whether you're on a walk, commuting, or cooking dinner, you can earn continuing education contact hours and stay inspired without sitting through endless recorded trainings. Visit lisamustard.com to join the CE membership and keep your professional growth as seamless as your favorite podcast.
Hey friends, welcome back to the show. I'm Lisa Mustard, and I'm really glad that you're here with me today. This episode is one that has been sitting with me for a little bit now because it's about something I see happening quietly in a lot of therapist careers, especially if you've been doing this work for a long time. At some point, the question shifts for you. It's no longer, how do I help this client? It becomes, how do I share what I've learned? How do I pass this on? How do I make my work more sustainable in a new way? And that shift from clinician to educator is one we don't really talk a lot about. There's no ceremony for it, there's no training that prepares you for it. And often there's a lot of internal resistance that comes along with it. So today, I want to name that transition, normalize it, and talk about what's really happening under the surface when therapists feel called to teach. For most of us, this doesn't just show up as a big dramatic decision, it shows up quietly. You notice that you're explaining the same concepts over and over to clients, to interns, to colleagues. You find yourself refining language, simplifying ideas, offering frameworks instead of long explanations. You start thinking there has to be an easier way to share this. And sometimes this happens after burnout, sometimes after mastery, sometimes in midlife when you realize you don't want the next 10 years of your work to look exactly like the last 10. And here's something important that I want to say out loud. Wanting to teach doesn't mean you're abandoning your clinical work. More often, it means you've integrated it deeply enough that you're ready to share it. And this shift can feel surprisingly uncomfortable for therapists because we're trained to be cautious, to stay humble, to defer to research and credentials, to avoid positioning ourselves as the expert or guru. And while those values matter, they can make the idea of teaching feel wrong or even unsafe. I hear therapists say things all the time. Who am I to teach this? Everyone already knows this. I need one more certification before I'm qualified. That's a big one. But here's the thing, most therapists who feel the pull to teach aren't trying to elevate themselves. They're trying to reduce confusion. They're trying to make things more clear, more ethical, and more usable. Teaching at its core is an extension of care. There's also this myth that to be an educator, you need to be an academic or researcher. But that's only one kind of educator. Some people generate research, others translate it. And therapists are incredibly good translators. You understand nuance, you recognize patterns, you know what works in theory and what actually works in session. You don't need to invent a new model to be an educator. You need clarity, ethical grounding, and experience. Teaching isn't about novelty, it's about synthesis. One of the biggest internal shifts from clinician to educator is moving from one-to-one impact to one-to-many impact. In the therapy room, you can explore and process in real time. When you teach, you have to decide, what is the one thing I want someone to walk away with? That kind of clarity sharpens your critical thinking. And many therapists find they actually become better clinicians when they start teaching because they understand their own work more intentionally instead of intuitively. And teaching doesn't replace therapy, it often deepens it. Here's the part that nobody really prepares you for. Teaching means being visible. And for therapists, visibility can feel threatening. You're used to being helpful behind the scenes. Now your ideas are out in the open. They can be misunderstood and they can be critiqued. And perfectionism shows up, comparison shows up, old narratives about being too much or not enough show up. And if this resonates, it doesn't mean that you're not meant to teach. It usually means you're stretching into something new. This is nervous system work, not just professional development. One of the biggest concerns therapists have about teaching is ethics, and that concern makes sense. Teaching is not supervision, it's not consultation, and it's not therapy. Ethical education teaches frameworks, not prescriptions. It offers options, not mandates. It invites discernment, not dependence. When you're clear about boundaries, teaching actually becomes easier, not harder. Ethics aren't a barrier to teaching, they're the foundation. As therapists, and especially as we start thinking about teaching or mentoring or expanding our impact, sustainability really, really matters. We have to protect our energy. And one place where energy quietly leaks away is documentation, not because it's unimportant, but because it often feels disconnected from the clinical thinking that we're actually doing. That's one of the reasons I've partnered with Barry's, and they've rolled out a couple of updates that genuinely support clarity and continuity of care. One of the biggest updates is their new treatment plan experience. You can generate a complete treatment plan in seconds based on diagnosis, session notes, and your preferences. But more importantly, there's now a true golden thread. Your treatment plan informs your notes, and your notes continuously refine the treatment plan. As care evolves, you can update everything easily with their magic update feature instead of rewriting the plans from scratch. Every session builds on the last, and documentation stays aligned with real clinical work without adding more admin to your day. And they've also added a patient letter feature, which lets you generate things like summary emails, patient instructions, school letters, or other communications directly from your session notes in just a few clicks. Everything is editable, customizable to your tone, and easy to share or export. And tools like this really matter because when we protect our energy, we create more space for teaching, for mentoring, and evolving professionally without burning out. If you want to try Berries, you can test it out for free. And if you decide it's a fit for you, you can get $50 off your very first month with code TherapyShow50. And if you want to try it for free or use that code, I'll go ahead and put those links in the show notes. Now, I'll tell you this. When I started creating continuing education, it wasn't because I wanted to sell courses. It was because I kept seeing the same gaps between theory and practice, between ethics and real world decision making, between what therapists were taught and what they were actually navigating in sessions. And audio based education in particular felt really aligned for me. It fit into real life, walking, commuting, working out at the gym, cooking dinner, doing my chores, all those things. And learning without more screens or more exhaustion. Oh, that was high on my list. High on my list. And creating continuing education pod courses and other CE offerings, that became a way for me to support therapists beyond the therapy hour, not instead of the work, but as an extension of it. And if you're listening and feeling a pull to maybe considering teaching, creating continuing education, you don't need to decide anything today. Just notice. Just notice those thoughts and those feelings. You might be a skill based teacher, a conceptual translator, an ethics guide, an integrative practitioner, because teaching doesn't have to be big or public. It can be small, thoughtful, and deeply impactful. And if you're curious, if you're not ready to create a full course, but you want to think like an educator, there's an easy way to dip your toe in. I created a free Chat GPT tool called CE Course Builder for mental health clinicians. It's designed to help you explore ideas, clarify learning objectives, and see whether something you already know might translate into continuing education without pressure and without obligation. And it's free. You can simply use it as a thinking partner. And sometimes clarity comes not from deciding, but from exploring. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to check out the tool. And if this episode stirred something in you, I want you to know you're not behind. You're evolving. Teaching is not leaving clinical care, it's continuing it in a new form. Sometimes the next phase of your work isn't about doing more, it's about sharing what you already know. Thanks for spending your time with me this week, and I'll see you soon on the podcast. Please note that the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your therapist, doctor, or physician before implementing any suggestions from the show. The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is edited and engineered by Chelsea Weaver. If you're looking to start a podcast or ready to take the editing off of your plate, be sure to visit chelseaweaverpodcasting.com. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover all the pod courses and other continuing education offerings. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.